I wanted to talk about this simple food macro planner spreadsheet that I've been working on. And of course, we've got apps like Chronometer and MyFitnessPal, and they're great. But what I was looking for, and the reason why I've made this, is that it's a really simple tool that I can use just to plan a meal or plan a day of food by adding together different ingredients and seeing how those macros fall. And you can see I've got one row per ingredient. Some of these ingredients are fresh, and some of these ingredients have a label and are packaged. And so for all of the packaged ingredients, the nutritional information is always coming from the label. But for all of the fresh ones, I'm usually using like a national database to get this information. And so for each ingredient, I pretty much have 100, the amount of carbs per 100 grams, protein, fats, and calories per 100 grams. And then I can just add in how much of each ingredient I'm using. That'll then start to populate this field up the top here. And so as I'm buying new ingredients, I'm adding to this database, and that makes things really easy if I'm buying the same ingredients over and over again. Up the top here, I've got sort of the outcome of how this bottom area is populated. So I've got the targets in terms of the amount of carbs, protein, fats, and calories. This particular meal, so how is this spreadsheet looking like at the moment, and the difference between the shape of this meal versus my targets. Now with the targets, for me, obviously this is a low carb diet. So 20 grams of carbs will be the absolute maximum. And for me, that would be the total carb, not the net carb. So not taking into account fiber or anything like that. Protein for me is around about 1 gram per kilogram, just a little bit over. And then the remainder of the calories are made from the total fat. Now you can kind of see here the calorie amount for the targets and for the difference are calculated based on the combination of these three macros. And the great thing about that is that you might say, okay, let's increase this calorie amount by a little bit. We might just have more fat or more protein or whatever. So we can easily just change these values. That's going to update that total calorie amount. I'll keep the target at 1300 calories. And so here we've got, for each ingredient, this blank space in terms of weight. So I might say, okay, let's build a really simple meal made just of tofu and macadamias. So I might say, okay, here's this firm tofu. And one packet of this, you can see it here. One packet of this is 500 grams and it goes for $3.40. So it's pretty good value. And for every ingredient that comes packed in a package, you'll always be able to find the amount per 100 grams in terms of protein, carbohydrates, energy, fats, and protein. And you can see there's more data here than what I'm using. And it'll also have a recommended amount per serving. So that's where this data comes from. So I might say with this tofu, let's say 500 grams, which sounds like a lot, but actually so much of that tofu is water weight. So when you cook it, that weight goes down by quite a bit. And then in terms of macadamias, so with this tofu, you can kind of see here 500 grams, and that's already started to add to these values up the top. And so we might add to that 50 grams of macadamias. You can see we're already reaching almost that 1300 calorie goal with a little bit of fat left to go. We've gone over the protein target and we're still well under the carbohydrate target. Now, I would consider the carbs to be a limit, the protein to be an aim, and the fat to make up the rest of the calories. So you kind of want to, at least for me, Doesn't matter that much if the protein is a little bit over or a little bit under. If the fat's a little bit over or a little bit under, it's really being careful about that total carb amount. So I might say, okay, let's just change the values around these macadamias a little bit. Let's try 80 grams. And you can see that's now kicked us over that total calorie amount, which not by that much, so it doesn't matter that much. But let's take it down to 75. And you can see these ingredients together are going to give us a total calorie amount of 1277 with total fat amount of 93 grams of fat, 90 grams of protein, and around about 9 grams of carbs, which is fantastic. So all in all, that's how we would use this. We could, of course, add additional ingredients to this, juggle around in terms of how different things affect these total values up here. But for me, this is a very useful tool. And in fact, on a lot of Australian nutrition labels, you'll find that you only have the kilojoule amount and not the calorie amount. I like to think in terms of calories, and so I've just added a little converter here. So you can see if you divide the number of kilojoules by around about 4, you get to the amount of calories. So all in all, I find this kind of stuff really useful and also interesting. So I've got a link for it in the description. Feel free to check it out.